ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהכל נהיה בדברו. I remember Yaakov Agam, great artist, great Israeli artist. He was in my home, and I even have some of his works. I admire his works very much. You know, one of the characteristics, I think I must have mentioned it already at one moment or another. Some of his paintings change as you pass by in front of them. In other words, there seems to be like movement in something that doesn't move really, but as you pass by, it seems to move. And he told me, you know, my art, my kinetic art, underlines exactly that. And it has to do a little bit with Egypt also. He went back to Jewish history. You know, in Egypt, you venerated, you adored what is permanent. You know, death doesn't change and you constructed a pyramid, he's dead and that's it. On the other hand, Judaism spoke about change. Judaism spoke about time. So my art is Jewish art because it changes. In a sense, you know, he's quite right, Agam. Things change all the time. Who has a photographic paper today? Who has a mechanical typewriter, even an electric typewriter? This is past. Who uses carbon paper in order to have a copy of a letter? Things have changed tremendously. And what is the greatest marvel, I think, is the phone that we have, which is a little computer in our hands. We can receive emails. We can send something and immediately it is received in China. Not only voice, a picture, and God knows what. We live in a tremendous age, you know, where things change constantly. Nothing stays the same. Everything changes. Not everything. Jew hate seems not to change. One would think that after all the advances, after the knowledge that is accessible to anyone, can anybody believe that Jews control the world? How can you believe that? There was a book called The Protocols of Zion that claimed that Jews control everything in this world. I remember once reading that a Jew in Nazi Germany used to read the Nazi newspaper every day. Why? Because they say the Jews control the universe, they control it. It gave them tremendous power. Look at who we are. We are tremendous people. But that is not true. We know that that is not true. Yet Jew hate is a permanent fixture. Personally, and I must admit it, maybe out of innocence, just ignorance, I would say. After the Second World War, when the photographs and the movies came out about what really happened in the concentration camps, not only the death, what you saw, who survived, skeletons, human skeletons survived. That shows under what conditions they lived in those concentration camps. The world would never go back to Jew hate. To the contrary, after what the Nazis did, and with the complicity maybe of other peoples as well, because they didn't react with vehemently. Maybe this is one of the reasons why the United Nations General Assembly voted for the establishment of the State of Israel, because there was a tremendous sense of guilt that the entire human race had about what happened then. I thought that was the end of anti-Semitism. No more. Because nowadays we can really see whether something is true or not, veracity. But I don't think that is happening at all. As a matter of fact, there is a resurgence of Jew hate. It is now hidden under hate for the state of Israel. Why would you hate the state of Israel when it's the only democracy in a sea that doesn't know that? Look at what happened in Afghanistan. There is no such thing as regime change. That doesn't work. Certain people have certain ways of living, and here is Israel, a bastion of democracy, of rights. Where do women have equal rights in the entire Middle East, if not in Israel? And those that have different sexual preferences have rights in Israel as well. Arabs have rights in Israel. They're members of the Knesset that are Arabs. As a matter of fact, the present government of Israel is with an Arab coalition. They are part of the government. So how can you say that there is discrimination? Yet there is hate for the state of Israel, which I really think that deep down is Jew hate. Because Israel and Jew is the same. So therefore there's hate of Israel. It is a antiseptic way of saying I hate Jews, I hate Israel, I hate the policies of Israel. Well, I want to make reference to something I read recently that a rabbi wrote, quoting the Gaon of Vilna. And the Gaon of Vilna said there are 3 sources for the hate of Jews. And he writes the following. He says, one is Moab. A people Moab, they hated the religion of the Jewish people. As a matter of fact, if you take into consideration, there are Italians who are Catholics, there are Americans who are Catholics, there are Chileans who are Catholics, there are Brazilians who are Catholics, all over. How about Islam? Well, you can have Iran, they're not Arabs, but they're Muslim. Saudi Arabia, the Philippines is full of Muslims. Okay, they have all over the world, there are people who share certain religious beliefs. Who believe in the Jewish religion? Who is the people? The Jewish people. Nobody else. We are all alone, different from everybody else. This is what the Golda Meir, the late Prime Minister of Israel, said in the United Nations. Arabs form a certain group. Others have groups. Latin America is a group. Asia is a group. When it comes to the Jewish people, there are no groups. We are unique. Israel is unique. So maybe it is because we are different. There's a hate for the Jewish tradition. How we were able to survive thousands of years without our own country, with different languages, but yet there were basic tenets of religion that maintained this. That is one religious cause. Another one is Edom. Edom, and it really translates itself what happened with Amalek in the desert. Irrational. No reason for it. Maybe it is because we need to blame somebody else. You can't explain it. It is an inner feeling somehow that rejects somebody that is different from you. There's no reason for it. So you can't argue with him. You can't try to explain to him, look, the facts are different. No, it is because you are different or whatever it is. I have some rejection of you as a human being. You don't belong to humanity, and therefore I have to eradicate you. The third source, says the Gaon of Vilna, has to do with nationhood. The Philistines hated the Jews because the Jews were a different nation. That has to do already with political issues. And maybe this is what is going on, an ingredient in today's reality also. The fact that Israel has progressed so much. Have you been to Israel? Why don't you take a trip to Israel? Take a look at what happened. It's a country that has less than 10 million inhabitants. Yet, it is in the forefront of so many things. It is amazing what the state of Israel has done in health, in security, in defense, in science, in technology, in culture, in books. More books per capita are printed in Israel than any place in the world. You can go to concerts in Israel. There are beaches. There's everything in Israel. There's food. There's a desert, but they made the desert flourish in Israel. So it is also maybe a political rejection, because if you are next to Israel, how come you are not the same as Israel? I think I mentioned this to you. I'll repeat it again. I once took a flight in a very small plane from Jerusalem to the north of Israel. So on the right side, you could see Jordan. On the left side, you saw Israel. The right side was brown. The left side was green. You can't say that the Jordan River gives so much water. You can't say that it rains in Israel and doesn't rain in Jordan. Come on. It's the same place. The temperature is probably the same. All the factors are the same. If there is an earthquake in Jordan, you feel it in Israel. If there's an earthquake in Israel, you feel it in Jordan. They're neighbors. Yet one has certain characteristics, the other one has other characteristics. Maybe it is also a question of national envy, rejection, because it shows the people that you can have hospitals that really work, that you can Vaccinate most of your people that you can react with force, with energy, with compassion toward each and every one of your inhabitants. So maybe it is too complex an issue. I don't know what it is. But unfortunately, the world changes a lot. Unfortunately, hate for Jews is a constant and has been a constant in the past. In the foreseeable future, it may continue to be. But let us hope that the time will come when humanity will realize that we are all part of a spaceship. It is called the Earth. And we are responsible for each and every human being that resides on this planet. And hate for any other human being is deep down irrational, unjust, and immoral as well.